guys. So, I am still in the man cave, but I'm actually inside the doorway of the man cave accommodation, or whatever I turn this room into. I was almost tempted to turn it into a little workstation for me. It's going to be pretty cozy, especially when I get this wall blasted out and extend this floor out 5 or 6 feet and put all the glass walls in there because it's facing the woods and the horses and stuff. It'd be pretty cool. Anyway, so I hung up a sleeping bag right here, and I think we've eliminated most of the echo for this video share. And a couple dogs barking outside, new dogs next door, I don't know who it is. But it's after work hours, people are coming home. There's some noises out there. What else was I going to share with you guys I forgot to share? I actually, yesterday I went down to the river, wore my waders. The water in that river isn't as favorable for me to film in underwater as compared to other rivers I have access to here, because it's lake fed and that river is slow quite often. There's a lot of algae builds up in the bottom of it. The water's just not that clear. So I found a few fish in there, seen one steelhead for sure, which is pretty cool. And but once I got out in the river, I actually took a little bit of a chance, not too much of a chance. It wasn't absolutely stupid, but I thought maybe I could possibly make it across the river in my waders, and I did. And I kept my hand on my bib, top of my bibs, and I was that far from the top of the bib at one point, but made it across. And I got 2 of my trail cameras I left over there. The third one is not working. It's dead, unfortunately. $250 dead. And I retrieved those cameras. They're pretty cool. Shit pile of bears. Caught a 1 in a million capture. Caught an owl who's repeatedly hitting this one platform or clay bank, and the owl was actually fishing and successfully catching at nighttime crayfish out of the river and eating them on camera. Couldn't believe my eyeballs. So I made that into a video and I shared it on the One Word How to Hunt channel. I got to put up a link to that channel in the comments, or the community page a few times on this channel. So if I think of it, I'll put a link to it in the description below this one, and you guys can check it out, because I'm going to keep feeding that channel with a whole bunch of real cool trail camera footage that I acquire. Now, let's see, who have we missed? As 10,000 people scream out me at the same time. Here's a good title, I think. And don't think I go by titles, I don't. I go by what I've read or haven't. I don't have a clue what this is about. Now I believe my kids. Steve, first of all, I want to just say thank you for the hundreds of shares you've done. I listen every day and thoroughly enjoy hearing about folk conspiracies. Because of what I have heard, I started to put 2 and 2 together and come to the conclusion that we raised our children in Sasquatch country too. Thank you for the kind words. I'm glad you are learning from this channel. In 1980, we purchased 5 acres of heavily wooded land outside Seguin, Texas. It's a farming town about 30 miles east of San Antonio, and our land was an additional 15 miles southeast of the town. The land was surrounded by large ranches and lots of hickory, post oak, and black jack oak trees. Our land had never been cleared, never been lived on. As far as I know, had been left alone since the land was created thousands and thousands of years ago. We cleared a spot big enough for a house and a driveway. That's how thick the woods were. Moved an old, long, skinny mobile home there and began to build our house. No one lived out there. Well, hardly anyone. It got very dark at night and we loved it. One night while I was in the bedroom, my mother-in-law and 2 of my children looked out the living room window. They saw several gold glowing balls floating slowly in the woods. That's what they said. And although I couldn't even begin to fathom what those balls were, I believed them. For why would they all lie? To me, it was just a weird, unexplainable thing, and it never happened again. A few years later, we had our house mostly finished, but had not put in any air conditioning, so the windows were always open. The 2 girls, ages about 6 and 8, slept in the back corner bedroom, facing the thick woods. My older daughter told me she woke up in the middle of the night and saw a black, hairy creature standing over her sleeping little sister. She tried to keep still and quiet. She was so scared, but she must have made a sound because the creature suddenly vanished. That's what she told me in the morning. What could I do? Of course, there was no hairy creature in her room. That must have been a very vivid dream, but she insisted it was real. So I told her we would pray to God that God would protect her and her sister, and that was that. And I kind of forgot about it. A couple years later, I remarried, and my husband brought his young son with him. He got the bedroom next to the girls, also facing the woods. One day, he came running out from the woods, all scared and out of breath. He told us how he saw a huge, hairy monster creature in the woods. He said it just stood still and looked at him, but he spooked and ran all the way to us. Once again, we just figured it was an overgrown imagination or something. Told him there was nothing to be afraid of, and life went on. After listening to all those emails you read, something clicked in my memory, and those 3 stories suddenly had all the hallmarks of Sasquatch tales: the glowing balls, the interest in young children, even the disappearing one in the bedroom. I listened to you read another account almost identical today, which is why I'm finally writing to you. You know, I called my daughter and asked her if she remembered that time she said she saw the creature in her bedroom. 30 years later, it is still clear as a bell. She still says it was not a dream. So, the next time my stepson came over, I asked him if he remembered anything scary that happened while living in the woods. Immediately, he told me about the big creature in the woods. And you know what? 30 years later, he still remembered how afraid he was. Then he added, you know, sometimes at night in my bedroom I was afraid to look out the window. I felt like something was out there looking at me, and I didn't want to see it. He had not told us that when he was little. What kind of mom was I? Well, I try not to beat myself up for thinking my children were all making up stories, and I don't honestly know if I would have stayed there or moved if we had known that the big hairy guys are real and lived in Texas too. All I can say is that I'm thankful they are all safe and we don't live there anymore. I hope you and Sarah have many wonderful years on your new land, and once again, thank you for sharing so many stories. God bless. Nancy Kissiar. Nancy, don't beat yourself up. Do not beat yourself up, right? Even all of us who've had the first-hand experiences and are members of the Club of No Return, even all of us would think it was absolute nonsense had we not seen it firsthand ourselves as well, right? And especially because that was before the internet days, when I had my experience, some of them, and when many other people had their experiences far before the internet, and nobody could reach out and hear all as many witnesses as we can today, right? So it's not your fault. And hopefully, if you would, possibly pass this video off to your stepson and your daughter. Let them hear it and give them a little more reassurance that they're definitely not alone. But what a shitty thing, the numerous experiences people have about something being in their bedroom looking at them over the bed just makes me want to vomit. You know, I don't care who you are or how badly you want to think you want to be left alone on this planet and not harassed by a human being. I don't care who or what you are. And when you sneak into the home dwelling, into the bedroom of the children, you're going to die. Right? And no, that's not a redneck, violent, gun-slinging, irresponsible thing to say. That is fact. It's like I was talking to Sarah a little while ago, and she's like, I could never kill anything. And she could never kill anything, not even a frickin' worm, all right? But then when I say, okay, well, what if somebody beat the crap out of your daughter? And then her face goes, I'd kill them. Bingo! We all have it in us to protect family, right? So, what are the beings that come into the bedrooms of the children and look at them and possibly take them? That's something we all got to find out too, right? And how to thwart those experiences. How do you keep them out of the bedroom? Just a simple piece of glass does it, right? Friend laughed at my warnings. Oh, here we go, another one of these ones. Hi Steve, been following your channel for some time now, and a few others. Hi Steve, been following your channel for some time now, and a few others. Just got a text from a game warden. I've learned a lot from hearing the stories sent in from your followers. I live in a semi-urban area with some well-forested areas in places for outdoor hiking and walking opportunities. I've always believed there are unknown beings inhabiting parts of the world's forests that are mostly unvisited and habituated by humans, because just too many people have reported encounters with strange covered beings to be not true. One of my grandfathers was Native American as well, so I feel in tune and in touch with nature. I've always been a person who enjoys the outdoors. I walk every day out in the woods or fields as I enjoy the peacefulness and quiet It is like a balm to the heart and soul for me. So when I recently learned these beings can also be present in more inhabited areas, I began to pay a lot closer attention. Our local NPS area is a highly visited area. We have some trails that weekend hikers, I use that term loosely, frequent a lot. One day while I was visiting this trail, I observed one of these stick structures. To my amazement, it was not hidden, pretty much in full view. I wrote it off as some kids playing around, or one of the many weird-ass people I've seen back there. But after seeing those things in various pictures, I recognize it for what it was. This, along with other experiences back there, including a creepy feeling like you are being watched, dogs reacting, growling, and being very cautious, strange noises, and the woods just going silent, have all led me to believe that it's not a good idea to walk back there alone. I relayed this to my friend, who also goes back there alone, and has had the same thing happen to her. Maybe it's not a good idea. She laughed at me when I told her why, so it made me sorry. I even mentioned it to her. I told her why, so it made me sorry. I even mentioned it to her. She is one of the many who go back there, but go about their merry way. I've never felt it was safe to block off any of your senses when you're out in the woods, as there are many things that can harm you out there or your pets, so I'm always aware of my surroundings. I wrote to you previously about having an incident where I had the living crap scared out of me by some unknown force that had me almost panicked and felt like I was about to be killed. I'm so glad others have reported this because they didn't understand why this is happening. I'm not afraid of the woods. I still go out every day, but I'm even more cautious now than before, always watching, always listening to what's going on around me. I thought I was doing a good thing by warning my friend of the things I've seen and heard, but maybe I should have just kept it to myself. I've always felt it's a prudent thing for women walking alone to always be on alert for any kind of threats, as I've encountered coyotes, a weird man that was following too close, stopping when I stopped and just staring at me. My dog scared him off, or anything else. Thank you, Steve, for your channel, and all you do, Linda. Linda, thanks for the email. Thanks for the share. And I've said it a handful of times already. All we can do is be honest. Do your part to be honest with your friends and neighbors, your family. Just be honest. Look them in the eye, square up to them, and tell them the honest truth of what you experienced and what you know, what you've seen. And then end with, take from it what you will or leave it. At least I told you, and I'm being honest about it. And then at least, if or when the shit goes down, you don't get the finger pointed at you for not telling anyone, right? Because a lot of people find out later on, you knew all this time these things were out there, why didn't you tell me, right? I'll never be that guy. Good for you emailing and sharing. What do we got here? This is called The Past Few Years. All right. Hey Steve, D here from Northern Utah again. Thanks for sharing my first two experiences. The thing is that I'm not really sure where things that I've experienced since fit in all this. I'll start by saying that I believe that once you're a member of the club, you're open to many more things. So here it goes. It was 2004 or 5. I and a couple of my buddies were out in the West Desert coyote hunting. We spent the day moving around to different spots, setting up some new calls and getting quite a few dogs. The sheepmen had a $50 bounty on them, so we were doing well. Now, where we were hunting is sagebrush flats and rolling hills. Very few to no trees, other than a few cedars here and there. It was a warm fall day and evening. We built a fire and made dinner as it got dark. We were sitting by the fire in this wide open flat. You could see for miles in any direction. About 10:30 p.m., we noticed 3 red lights, really low to the ground and to the west of us. They seemed to be getting closer. There's the usual cricket noise and the coyotes howling back and forth, but nothing unusual going on. We noticed that we were not hearing any engine noise either. Then things got weird. The 3 lights seemed to lift straight up in the air. They were or seemed to be small in size, so it was impossible to judge a distance. Then they just seemed to hover there for about a minute. Then they separated from each other. They seemed to move independent from each other. A minute or so later they came together and like joined, then just disappeared. What the F? Kind of odd. We noticed it was very quiet, no sounds, just the fire and us talking. Now, like I said, there were no trees out there. But then we started hearing owl hoots. Kind of odd. The hooting seemed to be coming from all around us. Not real close, but close enough we heard them very well. Owl-like trees. The hoots were kind of odd. I don't know how to explain it, just different than normal. I'd never heard them before or since out there. Then the coyotes started in again. Seemed to be like talking. Then the crickets. We'd never seen anything, but it was just very weird for owls to be out there right after seeing those lights. Still today, around my place, now and again, there are nights that the owls seem to be very loud and carry on for hours. Now, I do believe that there are people that may be targeted, for lack of a better word, to see and hear these things more often than others. Maybe it's because we are believers. I also feel that they want us to know and understand that they are there. Otherwise, I don't think we would ever see or hear them. After all, they are the kings and the queens of hide and seek. I think they have the innate ability to show our nature. Know if we are a threat or not. Yes, some humans are real assholes and would harm them, but I believe they know that most are scared of them. I'm somewhat sure there are good and bad in them, just like us. Maybe they want us to know that. I also believe they and humans have been around way longer than we are led to believe. Who knows, maybe at some point in time we live side by side. Anyway, I still 2-day feel them around now and then. I just call it my spidey sense. Thanks again. I'll get back to you as soon as I'm researching a couple things I think you would like to hear about. Again, thanks for what you do. Be safe, D in Northern Utah. All right, D, appreciate that, man. Keep it coming. You got something that you think that I would appreciate knowing? Get it into me. All right, don't even hesitate. As far as seeing those lights, I haven't seen them yet. I've caught some weird lights on my trail camera. Shared that quite a while ago. But I haven't seen the lights myself. I have seen what would be called UFOs in the sky, without a doubt. One broad daylight. Me and my buddy were way up north, up top of a mountain, sitting there with a spot and scope, binoculars, blue bomber day, and there was a silver, pewter-looking round ball sitting in the sky, like right there. Who knows? I would never be able to guess how far it was or how big it was, but it was quite a ways away. It was just stationary for hours. And then when we just looked at each other, guess we seen a UFO. Now what, right? Oh, I took photos of it too, but never put much energy into it because, well, what for? There's videos of actual flying unidentified craft. It doesn't make a difference anyway, right? But anyway, thanks for sharing. Make sure you get into us. Everything else you got. We want it all. We want all the knowledge here, all right? We want it all, no matter what. Well, these are all fairly recently emailed in, too. I charged my old phone, then went and grabbed it out of the pickup truck, and sucker's dead already. Didn't even crack it open. So I'll have to charge that up and dig into those old emails as soon as I can. Georgia Vix Terror. October 12, 2021. Oh, read that. What am I doing? Dumbass. Getting through this one list. Right on. Feels good to get caught up and get more people listened to, you know? Alright. Here's a shorty. Saturday in Kansas. Steve, my name is Johnny. I'm from Junction City, Kansas. I was fishing at the mouth of the Kansas River when a rock hit me in the neck. I was catching a mess of fish and was getting ready. I was getting greedy. I just come back from putting the fish in my car and decided to go back for more when more small rocks started stinging me like a wasp nest. I yelled, "You need to stop." Then I heard a large man clear his throat. While looking in the general direction, I saw the trees spread apart about 10 to 12 feet up in an area near the trail to leave. I cocked my pistol and packed up to leave. I've had multiple issues in the same spot. Appreciate what you do, brother. God bless. Well, that was short and to the point, leaving out a handful. Let us know what it is you saw when those trees parted and what else has happened. It'd be interesting to me anyway. I've been to Kansas too, Racine, Kansas, and a few other places. Used to go in that invitational World Turkey Hunting Championship under the team howtohunt.com. Very familiar with that state. What do we got here? Experienced through Dawson Creek. It's just near there. Hi Steve, my name is Rhonda Nelson. You can share. I live in a quarter section of land in a rural area near Puggins Mountain. It's kind of between Dawson Creek, Chetwynd, and Tumbler Ridge. My family and I spend most of our time when we're not working outside. We're either hunting, horseback riding, berry picking, mushroom picking, shed picking, fishing, snowmobiling, quadding, boating, or camping. Hearing from other people on your channel, including your own stories and your grandfather's, have convinced me that they do in fact exist, and some things that have happened make more sense now. I thought I would share a few experiences that my husband and I have had over the years. I believe they may be Sasquatch related. We were out elk hunting, making some cow calls and a few bugles. We were in pretty thick alders and trees, so it was hard to see much, and it was getting too dark to shoot. My husband likes to make a few cow calls on the way out, as well, just to sound like elk. And just then we heard the loudest 3 or 4 toned sound. It sounded like a mix of a bovine bull and maybe a dinosaur from Jurassic Park, and ended in a huge roar like a lion. By then it was quite dark, and we had a tight trail to walk a mile out on to get to our quad. I just kept saying, what could have made that sound? We just didn't know. I was ahead with the headlamp on and was walking my fastest walk. We've had wolves start howling and following us a time or two when calling out before, but we know what they sound like. My husband has spent his entire life running around the bush. He also guided for quite a few years previously and has seen and heard a lot, but never a sound like this. I don't enjoy returning to this particular area, but we do, and it does get easier. I'm on high alert and my head is on a swivel though. We also found some hair some years ago that he couldn't recognize. We sent it to a conservation officer in Fort St. John, who sent it out to be analyzed, and it came back inconclusive. They didn't know what it was. Kind of weird, I'd say. One other time we rode horse and took pack horses into an area and camped overnight. All night there was strange whirring, whooping kind of noise. The next morning my husband went early on foot to check out a lick that was a ways out. And the strange noises continued. The horses were like statues, frozen and listening. I was a little freaked out, I must say. We never could figure out what it was. This leads me to the most recent event. My husband, still the skeptic, went to collect flat rocks way up the South Puggins Road about a month ago and saw a tall, black, shiny-haired figure standing by a tree. He immediately backed up to look at it, but it was gone. It wasn't a bear up the tree because he could see the length of it. There was a steep drop-off embankment close behind the tree. He then went solo hunting just a couple weeks ago in a rugged and remote area. The harder to get to, the better. He was elk hunting and slept under a tree. Just before last night, he did a couple more calls and something answered with 3 very loud whoops. Then paused and did 3 whoops again. He still stayed under his tree and just brushed it off as an owl. We listened on YouTube to every owl sound out there and nothing fit the bill. He knows it wasn't an owl. I started asking my other relatives that have had hunted their whole lives, and there are stories of strange sounds and things running through the brush at incredible speeds, as well as sightings, all in this area, as well as Chetwynd and the Pine Pass. I ask everyone now. So many people will think about it and then say, well, there's this one time. Hope to see you when you're through, Steve. My casa su casa. All right, hope I read that properly, Rhonda. Thanks for that email. Yeah, I'll be out there. I'll get a hold of you guys for sure when I'm up in November. And I'll guarantee you guys know many people that I know probably, but more importantly, I'll guarantee you there's people out there around you that have seen these things. 100%. I've had them email me. I've had people email me from Hudson Hope, Fort St. John, Pink Mountain, Tumbler Ridge, Chetwynd, Dawson Creek, obviously, Grand Prairie, well, everywhere. People email from frickin' everywhere you can think of. And I think I mentioned this before. Last year, when I just got home from hunting north of Chetwynd, I was at the grocery store at home in Pemberton, and a buddy of mine was standing beside my truck talking to me. Some random guy I don't know saw me, recognized me, and he just came walking up. You see him fill his phone for a second. He put his phone in their faces, and he had a trail camera picture. It looked to be first light in the morning to me, and it was in somebody's back quarter acre. It was later fall because most of the trees were missing most of the leaves were missing off the trees. And here's this thing. It looked like it was covered in reddish brown hair. I cannot tell you how tall it was because there was nothing really there for me to gauge it. And I only looked at this thing on his phone. And all he said was it was his buddy's private property, and it was on his trail camera. Sure looked like one hell of an effort to try and fake that out. And furthermore, I've never seen that photograph shared online yet. And I put a shout out to that guy on this channel a few times. Hey man, share that picture with it. I didn't even think to say, hey man, text it to me, because you know my attitude on photographs, like whatever. But for people like you, I've started to come around a bit on the photograph thing. It's not just about me and my feelings at all, right? So it's about everybody else, and everybody wants to see this shit. So I'll ask that guy again, Pemberton, if you could forward that photograph off to sharemystory@hunt.com and share it with the people, man. Let them have a look. It was a pretty clear, detailed photo that you showed me. There's no facial features on it, but there's hands and feet and hair, for whatever you want to call it. It was there. It was light enough to see all the clear detail. It looked like he was running, and it looked to be possibly 100 yards from the trail camera, maybe less. But anyway, yeah. But anyways, Rhonda, yeah, reassure your husband that they're out there. Many guides from the northeast have seen these things. Outfitters have seen them. People in Fort Nelson have seen them. Muncho Lake, Dawson, Fort Nelson, Muncho Lake, north of Summit. I've seen 100% sign of these things. I was at the head of Cleto Creek, actually. You can Google that up, very remote. We were back there on horseback, gone for 2 weeks, and found some strange shit. I got photographs, I'll dig them up. I'll share those with you guys. Just gotta remember to. The Yukon, tons. Carcross, tons of sightings. Anyway, it's nonstop. Pine Pass, how remote looking and nasty is that country? You know they're running around there all the time, without a doubt. Always think about it when I'm driving through Pine Pass. I don't know why, but as soon as I start going through Pine Pass, it gives off that vibe the whole way. 100%. Thanks for sending that in, Rhonda. I'll be in touch with you guys shortly. Alright, here we go. Title, Screwing Me Up for the Rest of My Life. Hi Steve, run across your YouTube videos about crazy shit that's happened to people. Well, here's mine. A little background on me. First, my name is Jeff, and I'm 50 years old now. I've been hunting, shooting, competing for 40 of them. When I aim at something, I don't miss. So here you go. I went hunting in Alaska for bear. I took my .375 Shaytac custom-made rifle. My friend told me to bring something big, so I thought 7,000 pounds of energy hitting a big brown would do the trick. We hatched there for a few days and seen nothing. And the fourth day flipped my life upside down. I can't walk very well, so I sat most of the time just off a river area. I was sitting there and heard some loud cracks coming from the area that I was told to keep my eye on. So I was on high alert. I took my watch and seen it was 11:38. I was going to be picked up for lunch around noon. I was hoping that my guys wouldn't spook what was coming my way. About 9 yards down was a very big bear I was looking at through my scope when I heard a huge crash coming from my right. I turned and seen a massive something. I was looking right at it, but my brain wouldn't let me fully understand it. That's the part I'll never figure out or forget. This thing was 40 yards from me and started running at me, making some sounds I have never heard anywhere. I thought I was going to be killed by this thing, so I pulled the trigger, hitting it mid-chest, flipping it. I was effing numb. I could hear nothing. I wasn't thinking right. I thought I may have just killed a guy playing a joke or something. I just stood there frozen for what felt like 2 days. I started to walk over this thing. When I got over to it, it had a hole the size of my fist right through its chest. It had to have been 7 foot, 500 pounds. I started puking and backed up to where I had shot from and sat down. Here's where it gets really effed up. I was sitting there for at least 30 minutes with it being dead silent. Then out of somewhere, all sound came back. I stood up, walked over to the thing, and it wasn't there. Nothing. Effing gone. I walked back to where I shot from and was like, what the F? I looked at my watch, it was 11:39. Only 1 minute had passed from the time I heard the huge crash. I looked on the ground for my spent casing and found nothing. Not one round was missing from my gun. Then it gets stranger. It goes dead quiet again. I closed my eyes and started crying like a baby. I couldn't stop. What should have been 2 to 3 minutes was 3 hours, and now it's 2:39 p.m. I wasn't in the area that I was before. I couldn't have walked that distance that I was from the hunting spot due to health issues. My guys have been looking for me for almost 3 hours. When I meet back up with them, I was over 2 miles down the road from where I went in at. I never told anyone what had happened on that day. I don't believe this myself, so I wouldn't think anyone else would. Thanks for your time. Thanks. Your time machine, Jeff. LOL. Jeff, that's a crazy story. I hope you heard of Edgar's share with us. Basically the same thing happened to him, minus the gunshot part. And I'm pretty certain Dave Plattis would possibly be interested in hearing this one. These things are happening to people, unfortunately. Losing time, lots of time, and ending up somewhere where they will last remember being. It's very unfortunate because it's very confusing, and that would screw anybody's brain up for a lifetime without a doubt. That would haunt the shit out of your thoughts 24/7, as long as you're walking upright, would it not? I guess it does, right? But anyway, just so you know, you're not the only one to experience that, alright? Meaning losing time, showing up somewhere you weren't when you last remembered. The shooting one of these things in the chest, that's not that common. Obviously it happens. What a crazy ass story, man. What a freaking shit-eating experience to have to harbor and pack around between your ears. Unbelievable. Crazy. But that has definitely added some more knowledge to various different people's missing puzzle pieces, right? I take note of every single tidbit that everybody sends us. And this little tidbit here, as well as Edgar's and some other people, have really got me going off in this direction as I'm searching for that puzzle piece for my puzzle. And that is the loss of time and what maybe possibly is another existence paralleling us our exact same time, which has been talked about even on mainstream. So anyway, thank you so much for making that share, man. Appreciate it. Somebody else is going to come forward that's had the same experience, no doubt. Possibly less the shooting in the chest thing, but you never know, right? Who knows? Anyway, that's it for me for a while. I gotta get out of here. Got some dinner to eat, some stuff to pack, and some driving to do tomorrow. I'll be back.